Welcome back to the Works podcast. He is running for New York State Assembly District 12. He has previously run for state legislator and state senator. Please help me welcome Greg Herskowitz. Greg, how are you doing today?
Excellent. Feeling great. Thank you.
For people that don't know you, can you tell voters a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I was born in Huntington, raised in Northport, graduated Northport High School, class of 99. I started my legal career in DC with two federal law enforcement agencies, the U.S. Marshal Service and the FBI. Then I went over to the Narcotic and Dangerous Drug Section at the Department of Justice, where I prosecuted drug traffickers. And then to the Asset Forfeiture Money Laundering Section, where we prosecuted money launderers. And I led the Bernie Madoff victim remission case, which allocated $4.4 billion to the victims. Moved back to New York City to work for JP Morgan Chase. Then was eventually appointed assistant counsel to the governor right before COVID. And I was the chief legal advisor for all financial matters in the state of New York. And I was there during COVID, where we implemented telehealth and waiving copays for the vaccine. Then after the governor's office, I became a criminal defense attorney, and then eventually a New York City judge. And then I resigned as a judge to run for office and became the Democratic nominee for state senate. And and which was a very bad year for Democrats, and Trump got elected the second time. And because Donald Trump got elected, I knew things were going to get really bad for immigrants in the community, and so I became an immigration attorney. And so I currently work as an immigration attorney, fighting to get people out of detention, who have no criminal records and are just being held in detention for no other reason than not having status in this country. I ran for Suffolk County Legislature, District 18 last year, and lost by 249 votes against our popular incumbent, who outspent us 12-1.
Which
And
anybody who's in the district knows that was a pretty close loss. We were all kind of rooting for you, and speaks to how every vote really does count, especially on local elections.
oh yeah, 100%. And the race which shouldn't have been that close, to be honest with you. I mean, we were not expected to come that close, but the fact that we came that close in a race that we were not supposed to, just shows how motivated and engaged the people in the community are. And and then this year there's no incumbent, and thanks to the New York State Matching Fund program, we have the resources to compete. And obviously, there's signs of a bigger blue wave that's building right now. So we are favored to flip this seat this year. So we are very optimistic and hopeful, but obviously not going to take anything for granted. And we're going to work really hard and knock on people's doors and ensure that that we eventually flip this seat in November.
So I'm going to ask a kind of stupid question, but I think it's kind of important because I think a lot of people also don't fully appreciate or understand the workings of local government.
Mhm.
So you lost to last go around to Stephanie Bontempi, who is running for legislator. How does legislator different from assembly person?
Yeah, so the legislature is like the Congress for Suffolk County, and I'm running now for Assembly, which is like the Congress for New York State and the lower house.
I
So it's
see.
like the House of Representatives. So if I was elected to the Suffolk County Legislature, I'd be making legislative laws on the county level. Ed Romaine is the county executive. He's like the equivalent of the governor or the president. He makes all the executive decisions. So we would be passing laws on the local level. On the assembly side, we are passing laws on the state level. And the big thing that I like to point out is I'd be part of the majority conference. Democrats have a supermajority in the Senate and the Assembly, and you have to really be part of the majority conference to bring money into your district. When I was in the legislature, I've negotiated with the Senate and the Assembly, and I can tell you firsthand that the Republicans do not have a seat at the table. They're not allowed to participate in the budget process. They are just there to just kick and scream and make noise when they're up in Albany. But a lot of these Republicans just treat the job like passive income because they don't have to do anything. Because
Huh,
when Democrats have a supermajority, they don't need the Republican votes at all.
right.
So our district hasn't been getting its fair share of funds from Albany. And my priority is to ensure that we finally get our fair share of funds. And since I've negotiated state budgets and I have good relationships with leadership already, I will ensure that projects that have been neglected finally get the funding that they need. So it really makes a huge difference who represents you in the legislature, because it's you know massive amount of resources is at stake, and state funds that could be used to improve the community.
Can you talk about some of the projects that you think deserve more funding right now that haven't been getting the funding and have been neglected?
Yeah, so just hyper local, we have the seawall in Asheroken, which is uh, been in shambles for years and years and years, and people in Eaton's Neck are at risk of being locked out from the rest of the community, because there's only one road that goes up there, and then the seawall, it got destroyed in the hurricane. And we're just one more hurricane away from that entire road being completely flooded and destroyed, and 600 homes are going to be stranded. So that's a project that definitely needs funding. We've asked for $12 million to repair the seawall, and if I'm elected, we will get the funds to repair that seawall. Uh, Stormwater runoff is a big issue in our community, particularly in Northport Village. So we
Mm.
want to make sure that that is taken care of. We have the new sewer system that's being implemented now, which I think is fantastic, because we have a nitrates that have been leaking into the sound for years. So it's going to be a great for environmentally to have sewer systems hooked up to the homes on Long Island. Uh, and affordability is going to be the big issue this election.
Mm.
And so we need to address a lot of the costs and expenses on Long Island, and that's where we can be helpful. Is, when we get our fair share of funds, it alleviates a lot of the burden from the taxpayers.
Now, I want to kind of get in on that just a little bit. So, New York State Assembly District 12, it encompasses a lot of it encompasses a lot of affluent areas like Eaton's Neck, Asheroken, Northport, but then like it also goes very far down south and also encompasses places like Bayshore and Deer Park,
Mhm,
which are typically not as affluent. Does
mhm.
that complicate how you talk and think about policy for D12?
No, not at all. And I think that the Deer Park portion of the district and the Bayshore portion part of the district have been ignored for all this time. And I know Deer Park, they need help repairing DPA, the Deer Park Avenue. That's going to be a big priority of mine, is getting funding for DPA. But those are the areas where I'm less known. Because when I've campaigned, past 2 years, it's been in the Huntington area. So I need to knock on doors like crazy in Deer Park and in Bayshore. Bayshore is a very blue portion of the district. That's where you have a lot of the immigrants in our community, and then the Deer Park portion. That's the blue collar workers who voted for Trump in the past election because they were unhappy, with the economy. But those are the people where if I knock on their doors and meet with them and talk with them and listen to them, they're definitely persuadable. So I want to get a lot into the Deer Park portion of the district and hear from the residents in Deer Park to see how we could better their lives.
Interesting. You've campaigned a lot over the last couple of years out here, and I'm wondering if there's anything over the past couple of campaigns that you've learned that you're applying to this current one.
It's just more door knocking. I think that's really the secret is door knocking. Uh, you know, the mailers and digital is all nice, but you really just got to meet people and talk to them. So I think this year we're going to focus more on door knocking and trying to speak to as many people as possible. We're going to have a strong outreach campaign to reach people who are kind of jaded about what's going on in the political world. But we have a lot of people who are unhappy with both parties. When
Mm.
I ran 2 years ago, I got hammered on immigration because people said Democrats are soft on crime and soft on the border, and then generally just thought Democrats were weak. But now these independent voters, they don't like what they're seeing on the federal level. They don't like these random
Mm.
ICE raids that are targeting families and communities and hurting our economy, and they want due process. And these independent voters are, going to come back to the Democrats, not necessarily because they're happy with the Democrats, but they're just really, unhappy with what they're seeing on the federal level. So it's really reaching out to these people to ensure them that, that they can vote for me because, I'm, have a strong, background in federal law enforcement, and, and in my work in the government, I can make sure that they, have adequate representation. So it's really just trying to reach out to as many people as possible, and, convince them to support our campaign.
So, I'm curious. Like you had just mentioned on your website, craigfornewyork.com, which everyone should go check out. One of the things that you talk about being a main priority is affordability. But, as we already kind of discussed, you have these very affluent areas like Eaton's Neck and Asheroken in your district. Does the message of affordability still resonate with those areas?
It does because, even these affluent communities, they still, their children still can't afford homes
Mm,
in the district.
mm,
Um, But yeah, I mean, you definitely have NIMBYism. We had this project, by the Northport High School for affordable housing that was in litigation for like 50 years because people are like, well, we don't want this in my backyard. It's going to bring crime. It's going to bring traffic. But it's just this gorgeous development that they've built there, and it's incredible. And I'm really excited that it's going to be built. Um, but I think. Affordability is still a big issue, for everybody. And even those who people in the affluent areas, they're not happy with the gas prices going up, and inflation. They're definitely concerned. And also they're concerned about their neighbors, who are also
mm.
hurting and suffering. But I think when you talk about affordable housing, which used to be, have a negative stigma to it, um, people like to say, "Well, it's workforce housing. It's it's for the teachers, it's for the police, it's for the restaurant workers, who obviously have a large contribution to the community." And we want to support these individuals. But I think it's really important that we work with the community when we are developing more affordable housing, because that's the one other great thing about the new sewer system, that once it's completed, it's going to allow for the more development of affordable housing. But you know, things that are called affordable housing are not necessarily affordable because
If
even you
if I'm
know
not mistaken, the sewer system that was originally in place was keeping us from building up, if I'm not mistaken, right? It wouldn't allow like anything past the second floor.
I don't know specifically if that's the case, but I know, I mean, overdevelopment is definitely a big concern in our district. So, we're not looking to overdevelop, but we are looking to try to find ways to, make things more affordable.
So, you talk about how this campaign you've done a lot of door knocking, and I have to say, out of the last couple of years that I've been in this area, you are maybe one of the few Democratic faces that I consistently see. Uh, you know, 2 weeks ago, when I was talking to Lucas Venturis on the podcast, he was talking about how the Democratic establishment in the Huntington area is flimsy at best. What do you think Democrats in the area could be doing more to kind of you know make a make a place for themselves here? Like actually like kind of show up. I sit there and I often think about the fall festival that I saw you at this past year, and at the fall festival, the Democratic tent is small and not getting a lot of traffic, and you are the only name that I see, that's running for anything actually standing at the tent. And meanwhile, at the Republican tent, you have, 3 to 4 different candidates all standing there handing out all this different merchandise. And these people are eating it up when, frankly, these people are not working in their best interest. So, what is something the Democratic establishment in this area could be doing more in order to kind of get more of a following here?
Yeah, and I think a lot has to do with funding. I mean, honestly, the Democratic Party here hasn't getting the resources and the funding that it needs, and then the Republicans, since they control a lot of the seats, and in the legislature and in the on the local levels, a lot of the things they're handing out are being paid with taxpayer dollars,
Mm.
because you have the power of incumbency. And that's why it's really important that we flip the seat and get more representation. But I am seeing like the energy from 2 years ago to now is night and day. And we had a Huntington Democratic meeting this week, and the room was packed. I mean, people
Mm.
are fired up, people are engaged, people are motivated. So that's why it's when I was knocking on doors 2 years ago, I was like, Donald Trump's going to win. Like I could see it at the doors.
Yeah.
This year, I mean, the pendulum has swung so far, and you have so the Democrats, they have the energy, they have the excitement, they're the ones who are motivated, and once we take back power, and we've been slowly chipping away at it. Jen Heber just won a big
Yes.
election last year, which is
Big
incredible.
upset. That was, yeah,
Yeah,
that was not
yeah,
expected.
yeah, but she worked hard, and that's where door knocking came in. Like she just knocked doors like crazy, and people got to know her, and they trusted her. And so once we start building up our bench again, and we'll be able to get more resources and more support. But yeah, I mean, I think Republicans have been very good at messaging and labeling Democrats as weak and woke, and that really kind of hurts in our areas, which is it's more of a moderate leaning district. So a lot of people were trying to avoid being associated with Democrats because of their all that misinformation that was out there, and the messaging. But I think now, I think Democrats are much stronger right now, and then we're building. It's a rebuilding year for us, and then once we take back power, we really need to focus on working families, and we gotta deliver results. And that's why I'm really excited about flipping the seat in November and showing that we can deliver for the district, and that the Democratic Party is better for the community. And with that, we'll start building up more support, more volunteers, more resources will come in, and then we'll have a stronger Democratic Party.
Now, while I agree with you, like I do, wholeheartedly believe that the Democratic Party is better for the community and their policies are better for people at large. I I, I am a bit concerned with the phrasing of that, though, in the sense that I'm not necessarily sure that people are fired up for the Democrats. I
Yes.
think they are scared.
Mhm.
I think they are scared economically. I think they are scared of what they're seeing with these ICE raids. I think they are, it should not be happening on American streets that American citizens are being shot by government sanctioned, employees. Just
Yep.
that shouldn't be happening. So I think what concerns me is that the Democrats see these numbers for this blue wave that I do think is going to materialize, but it's not materializing necessarily because the Democrats have done anything to earn that. I think people are
Mhm.
just genuinely frightened right now of what they're seeing coming from the top.
Mhm.
What do you think the Democrats could be doing more right now to kind of be earning their base's trust back? Because I think the base is, even polling would suggest that the base is really out of step with party leadership.
Mhm.
And uh, I think Democrats like you have a lot of work if you are to get elected. You have a lot of work, not just, fixing the mess that we're in, but also being effective enough and vocal enough about your accomplishments that people actually take it in and accept that.
And I agree with you 100%. I mean, there's a reason why AOC and Bernie Sanders are the most popular politicians, is because they're strong in their convictions and strong in their beliefs. They're not wishy-washy. They're not trying to run as Republican light. They are strong in their values and strong in their convictions.
Mm.
And I think that's the problem with the Democratic Party, is just a perception that, Democrats are not strong. They're not strong in their values and their convictions. And so, we need to be, unapologetic, of where we stand, and not try to walk the line, between both sides, and try to make everyone happy. But so long as this is what we believe in, these are our values, and we stick with it. I think that's really what people are looking for. They just want strength, and you're absolutely right. I think independent voters are not voting for Democrats because they like Democrats. They just like Democrats more than they like Republicans, or hate Democrats less than they hate Republicans now, because the Republican Party is becoming the party of sycophants and no integrity, and it's getting really really bad. But I think that's why Democrats, once we take back power, we need to be just strong in our convictions and our values, and I think uh, that's when we'll be successful.
I I know he's a controversial figure, especially shockingly even among Democrats. But I keep referencing Zoran Mamdani because he's only been in office for 4 months or so, and he's accomplished a lot. And I think that's the level of effectiveness I think people are looking for right now, even if it's not something that you totally agree with. I think people need to see the actual accomplishments. I think, one of the things that hurt the Biden administration so much, and feel free to speak on this, is that Biden didn't really articulate a lot of his wins. The Biden administration, for all my issues with them, did a lot of great stuff. They
Mhm,
passed a lot of amazing legislation that
mhm,
most people I talk to aren't aware of.
mhm,
And I think the Democrats, we always go back to this problem of messaging. We always go back to this problem of messaging. I think also, it can't be understated that the Democrats are also working at a disadvantage in the sense that there is a 24/7 propaganda machine on Fox News and
mhm,
these right wing media apparatuses that, um, I, I mean, Megyn Kelly the other day said that the president has a not adult understanding with the truth, which is a
mhm.
really nice way to say he's a liar.
Right.
Just like all of these, news, Fox has been sued for $787 million in the largest defamation case in the country and lost because they lied. And I think that there is just this 20-year propaganda campaign against the toxic D, that the Democratic name. And I'm wondering, you know, is it a messaging problem, or is it compounded by the fact that there is this machine that the Democrats simply don't have on their side because they're working with facts,
Mhm.
as opposed to this other side which is just working with narrative.
Yeah, and I think it's both. I think we live in a society of clickbait and rage bait. When I posted a video that I was at a No Kings rally, it just got sent to all these keyboard warriors who just told me to drop dead. And and people are being peddled misinformation. And Republicans are much better at messaging. Build the wall, secure the border. It's very succinct. Democrats, we need to explain things because our policies are complex, and requires explanations, and it's hard to message that. Republicans just peddle in fear and misinformation, and Democrats are the only ones actually interested in solving problems. But it's harder to sell that, and I think that's why this year the Democratic message is affordability. We're just going to hammer affordability, 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 because I think that's the big issue people are facing. Um, so yeah, I mean, it is definitely challenging out there, and I think I don't have the answer because we don't want to play dirty like the Republicans are, because we still are the party of integrity and of values, and we want to do what's right, and we want to do what's best for the community. So I really think it's like we gotta push back against the misinformation, but also uh, you know have deliver the results. Because you're absolutely right. The Joe Biden's legislation was incredible and and very helpful and to the country, and to the economy and to infrastructure. But the whole messaging was that he opened up the border, and that's what people got hammered on, and and I saw it even from immigrants in the community. That were
Mm.
resentful. Why are we spending money housing migrants and giving migrants debit cards? And so Republicans found that one issue and just hammered on it. Anyway, and they tried all the other issues too. They went after transgender and pronouns and everything, just trying to attack Democrats because that's what they do. But I think we need to deliver, and I think the Republicans right now in Congress, they haven't done anything. They haven't passed
Yeah.
anything. They haven't passed any meaningful legislation. There's no reason why anyone should reelect a Republican right now because they're in power and they haven't done anything.
I mean,
Um,
if I'm not mistaken, aren't we still in a partial government shutdown?
Yeah, here we are. Yeah, DHS is not funding, and you have the Secret Service agents that that stopped would-be assassin the other day, and they're not even getting paid. Because
Crazy.
it's terrible, and yeah, and we saw this when we had the bipartisan comprehensive immigration reform bill in Congress that that Trump killed because
Killed, yeah.
they want to run on the chaos. They're not interested
Yeah.
in solving the problems, and that's the challenge. But that's why I am optimistic that when we do take back Congress in the midterms, we'll finally have some checks and balances on this administration, and hopefully things will get better. But as of right now, it's really really tough right now.
I'm curious, and I'm not trying to get you in trouble, but hypothetically, let's say, and let's hope that the Democratic Party does take back power these midterms. Are you confident with the party leadership that they're going to be tenacious and effective enough to swing things around?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's time for new leadership. Um,
Okay.
I think but I would be supportive of the current leadership because as you see people, it's hard for people to give up power. Biden should have been a one-term president, but you don't want to give up power, so it's definitely going to be challenging in that
Mm.
respect. But that's a matter of for Congress to pick their leaders. But I think regardless, you know, getting rid of Speaker Johnson is going to be a massive improvement for everybody. And if Democrats take back the Senate, which I really hopeful that they do, and maybe get rid of the filibuster, and we can pass some meaningful laws to that that really just you know benefits the country.
I'm curious. As you've been campaigning, do you find that Republican or independent voters uh, have negative views of their own neighbors if they vote the other way?
I mean, yeah. I mean, we used to sit at a Thanksgiving table with the Republicans and Democrats, and we respect each other's beliefs, got along well. But right now it's becoming so polarized, where if you're a big Trump supporter, you don't want to be friends with a libtard, or if you're a liberal,
Right.
you're not going to be friends with a MAGA person. Um, and
The
and I've
only
seen.
the only reason I bring this up is because I remember actually at that last fall festival, um, Ed Smith, I don't know how you pronounce his last
Smith, yeah.
name, Smith. So he was there. He's a town council member,
He
uh,
is the Huntington supervisor.
hunting supervisor. Right, right, right. So I had just casually asked Ed Smith, Ed, look, it's no secret, especially after last week's interview. I'm no fan of Nick LaLota. He is, I think, one of the most repugnant people in Congress, but that's just my feelings on it. But, one of the things that I have really taken notice of is the fact that LaLota has not held a town hall since being elected.
Mhm.
And I asked Ed Smith, I was like, Ed, I mean, do you think it's appropriate that Nick LaLota hasn't held a town hall since he was elected? And Ed's response to me was, "What are you, some crazy blue-haired liberal?"
Yep.
And I was so taken aback at how just profoundly inappropriate that response is, considering that
Mhm.
I'm one of his constituents.
Right.
That there's just, I mean, my tax dollars pay his bills. There's no reason he should be talking to me like that.
Mhm.
Much less talking about large swaths of his constituency like that.
Mhm.
Um, And if I think what bothered me so much about that was if that's coming from, I mean, considering he's an elected official, so he's above, us plebeians, right?
Mhm.
So like if he's saying that at his perch on the top, that translates and that trickles down into this, rabid kind of nastiness among each other, among our neighbors, among, just people on the street. And I'm curious, like, how do we roll that back? Not that you have all the answers here, but I mean, how do we roll back that level of like aggression and hostility that really shouldn't be in the body politic.
Yeah, and I think that's the big reason why I got to remove Donald Trump, because that's why we're so polarized right now. Because it's always attack, 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 and anyone who disagrees with you, um, you just attack them. You call them stupid, and it's really bad. We're not debating ideas. We're attacking people, and I don't care what you believe in so long as you have integrity. But I think the problem is right now, people with integrity in government lose their jobs, while those sycophants who have no experience and no integrity, those are the ones who people in power, like Cash Patel, uh, yeah, our defense secretary. I mean, all of these people are all disgusting human beings. And well, now I'm attacking them, so now I'm being a little hypocritical. But I mean, these are people with no integrity, who are only interested in enriching their own lives. They have all, and their only job is to placate Trump's ego and just say how great he is. And anyone with integrity loses their job. Liz Cheney, very conservative person, lost her job because she had integrity and tried to do what's right. Um,
And you could go down the list: Adam
yeah,
Kinzinger,
yeah,
Thomas Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
right.
I mean, even still hold ons like Nancy Mason, Lauren Boebert, even tried to get the Epstein files out and were
Yeah,
harangued for it.
correct.
You
Yeah,
know, as a Democrat and you're running on this affordability crisis, I mean, our state neighbor, New Jersey, has a 11% corporate tax rate. Do you think New York should increase its corporate tax rate from 7.25%?
yeah. I mean, I think there's also, everyone's gonna say, well, you're gonna scare people out of the state if you do that, but I don't think that's true. These corporations, they can afford it, and they should be able to pay their fair share. So we want to make sure it's fair, and the people with the working class who have their W-2s, they're the ones who are getting hurt and squeezed right now. These big corporations, they got so much money. That's why they're spending all their money on lobbying, because they got so much money. Yeah, so I would be supportive of making sure that they pay their fair share, so the working class doesn't have to.
Um, just because we still have a little bit of time left, I wanted to kind of circle back to one thing. So, you said that you were part of the FBI at one point in your career, correct?
Yes.
So, when you look at, I mean, Cash Patel running the FBI right now, does that I don't even know how to approach the question. I mean, it's certainly not competent. I mean, does it appear just completely performative? And how much do you think that endangers our security?
Oh, yeah. So I served under Robert Mueller, who was a
Oh
Republican,
wow.
but who I had the utmost respect for. And, I found it absolutely appalling, that Donald Trump celebrated his death, and anyone would celebrate his death. He
I
was,
can't even.
yeah,
I can't even.
yeah, yeah.
I
So,
can't.
yeah, even though I was a Democrat and he's a Republican, I had the utmost respect for him. He was a man of integrity. He was a man of honor, and anyone to attack him is really disgraceful.
Also, I
Um,
mean, this is somebody serving their country. I mean,
yeah.
whether you like him or not, he was working for us. He was making sure that we were all safe, and whether you agree with his politics or not, it's like this is somebody that you know worked for us,
Yeah.
and like the fact that he's sitting there and saying, I
Mhm.
mean, it goes to that. I was saying this with Lucas, I think too, is it really comes across as a slap in the face to me when everybody freaks out on Easter when he tweets a picture of himself as Jesus. And it's like he's sitting there saying he's happy that Robert Mueller's dead and that Rob Reiner died of Trump derangement syndrome and
Mhm.
that, the disabled guy in the front row he's making fun of. And like all of these things, like you excused all of that, but the picture of him in an AI created Jesus is too much.
Yeah. Hey, anything that helps him lose support, I'm all for.
Yeah,
So
sure. I mean, yeah, I'll
yeah,
take it. Welcome to the club. I'm just
yeah,
surprised that's what's did it.
yeah. I know, but and now attacking the Pope. The first American Pope he's attacking. It's like, oh my God! It's like, you know, it's funny. Like, like he's done like 100 things that if one president has done one of them, like it would have been a career ender. But like he just, he just keeps, his base, no matter what. It's like rooting for your sports team. Like, they can't do any wrong, and you support them no matter what. So, that's why I do appreciate people, with integrity who, even though like they're like, like the Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like I always thought, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, even though she was an extremist on the right, she was fighting for what she believed in.
Yeah, I
She's
agree
not
with
one of
that.
those politicians that were, pretending.
No,
Like Ted Cruz. Like I don't think he believes the things that he says. Like but
no.
he just saying it because he's trying to placate the base or not piss off the Trumps Trumpers. Um, yeah, yeah, it's just really it's really frustrating right now.
If
But
you're
yeah,
hearing
but
your
yeah,
exacerbation, just
yeah, and after the the White House Correspondents' Dinner event, like immediately after, Kash Patel just went up just to praise Trump and
I know.
and kiss the ring to save his job, and it's like that's all these people do, and it's like. You know, all you got to do is just tell him he's the greatest ever, and and then he loves you. But
And he
if
keeps
you're,
his job. It's just
yeah,
amazing. It's just
yeah. But he's got to go. He is so bad. Like my friends still at the FBI. They're
oh, I'm so
all
sorry.
the morale is terrible, and a lot. And you mentioned about security and national security. A lot of FBI agents were being told to drop big investigations to focus on immigration raids. So instead of going after real
Yeah.
threats, you're targeting people who've lived in the community for years with no criminal record. And so it's just absolutely horrific. But, yeah, but Kash Patel has no idea what he's doing. It's just there for his ego. He's just there to have fun. And, but yeah, he's very counterproductive to the success of the FBI. So I will be very, very happy when he does leave.
Or get fired soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
I am curious. Being that you were from the FBI and you have this little extra bit of expertise here, there's like several cases across the country right now that I feel the FBI has either completely flubbed or just has made no progress on. I'm curious how much of that is actually attributable to the leadership at the top, versus um, is it just something that the FBI wasn't capable of solving? The two cases that really like come into my or three cases really that come into my mind is last year the Brown University shooting. They lost that guy. They couldn't find him for weeks, several weeks at a time, I believe. Um, Nancy Guthrie is still missing. There's no update on that investigation at all. She's seemingly gone. Um, and you also have this growing story right now of 13 nuclear scientists in our country that have either mysteriously turned up dead or are missing. Um, how much of that is, like I said, attributable to the failures at the top of the FBI, or is that just something that the FBI would normally actually struggle with?
No, it really is the failures of leadership at the FBI. And what
Really?
really bothers me is that the Department of Justice is now Trump's personal law firm, and the FBI is Trump's personal investigators, and they are dropping really important investigations to
Wow.
target Trump's enemies and political enemies, and people with integrity at the FBI are being fired, and and morale is really really low, um, and you're rewarding these sycophants and giving them positions of power, and they are doing everything that they can to make Trump happy, and they're not doing what's right for the country. So it is, yeah, the whole FBI and Department of Justice have been completely diminished, by this leadership, and it, someone who worked for the FBI and Department of Justice, it really really bothers me. And so it's going to take years and years and years to rebuild the FBI and Department of Justice after it's been, really really curtailed, and doing its job and what it's supposed to be doing. So
If you have FBI agents getting fired or leaving, and we're saying these agents are competent and good at their jobs,
mhm.
um, you know, I assume that they're going to find other work. When they're out of the FBI.
Mhm.
So when you talk about rebuilding the FBI, what is it like trying to find talent for that? If they've all jumped ship.
Yeah, I mean, and I think we got to start from scratch. We're gonna,
Oh my god.
rebuild the FBI with, with young agents, and rebuild the Department of Justice with young attorneys, and it's just a matter of hiring non-political people to serve in the FBI and Department of Justice, and people who are actually interested in serving the public. Um, so it's going to take years of rebuilding, but yeah, it's the FBI and Department of Justice have been decimated now, and yeah, you're not going to get these agents back because I'm sure they're going to go into the private sector and make a lot more money than what they were in the public sector. um, and so yeah, we just gotta rebuild, and it's not going to be you know it's not going to be an easy process.
Well, Craig, you've given me a lot of things, new anxieties to mull over. Um, so listen, let's end on a positive note. Um, this is usually a entertainment podcast, and I've been switching it to a more political route lately because any platform that we have, might as well use it. But I'm going to be asking everybody this: have you seen any good movies lately?
I actually haven't. It's funny. When you start campaigning, you have very little time. For that. But I wanted to see. The Ryan Gosling movie that I heard that everyone was talking
Oh
about, but I
yeah,
haven't. Yeah.
Project Hail Mary.
Yeah, I heard that was good, but I haven't had a chance to see that. But that was on my to do list. If I ever
It
have
is
a,
a really good movie, and in fact, they just extended its theatrical release, so
Oh.
you might have a couple extra weeks to go check it out.
Yeah, I mean, I may not be able to see it until after November. So.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be in theaters that long. That's a really long run.
Is this something that I can wait till it's on Netflix, or do I need to go to the theater to get the experience?
I need how good is your TV and sound system?
Not that great.
I'd try to get into the theater if you can.
All right, maybe I'll,
It's
I'll
definitely a spectacle.
all right. I'll wait for a rainy day where I'm not
Alrighty.
outdoor knocking.
Alrighty. Well, Craig, this has been an absolute pleasure. If people are trying to find you, they could go to craigfornewyork.com. Be sure to donate, check out his policies. If you're able to volunteer, be sure to sign up. I'm sure he could use it. Craig, anything else you want to leave us with?
Well, since you asked for people to donate, let me just point out the new the matching fund program. So if you live in the Assembly District 12, uh, if you donate $50, that gets multiplied by 12 times.
Whoa!
Yeah, so it is an incredible program. And then thanks to all these small dollar donations that we're getting in district, we've raised over $150,000.
Wow!
Um, so it's a real game changer, and this is we're not taking any corporate PAC money. This is completely a people powered campaign. And my loyalty is going to be to the people of Assembly District 12. So anyone who donates up to $250, they get multiplied up to 12 times.
Wow!
So
Now, where
yeah,
does that come from? That
comes from
multiplication?
it comes from the state of New York. So this was legislation that was passed in Albany. They created this special matching fund program pot that eligible people, candidates, can apply for. So in order for me to get into the program, I had to get 75 in district donors and raise $6,000 just to qualify from small dollar donations, and then it gets capped at up to $175,000 in district.
Wow!
So
That's
um,
excellent.
yeah, yeah, it's a complete game changer.
Yeah,
Um,
is that something that all different types of candidates can use, or is that something that only like assembly people running could use?
So this program is for Assembly in the Senate. It's similar to the program in New York City where I think funds are getting matched up to 6 times. But it's a new program that just started 2 years ago. That so the first $50 is multiplied by 12, the next $100 is multiplied by 9, and the next $100 is multiplied by 8.
Wow.
For a max donation of $250, and it's supposed to encourage candidates to uh, raise funds in their district and not raise money outside of the district. Um,
That's a great idea because I also feel like that is going to erode a lot of corporate influence
yeah,
on those races. That's
yeah,
excellent.
yeah, and it gives all the power to the people of the district. So it
Oh,
really,
that's
yeah.
that like you said, that's a game changer. That's excellent. I'm so glad that you're benefiting from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, and that's why, we're competitive because, we're getting all the small dollar donations from in district. And, we've outraised our opponent in this race because of these small dollar in district donations.
Wow. Well, Craig, that made me feel a little bit better. If there's anything I'm going to hold on to from this conversation, it's that we have programs like that are helping us out a little bit. So, all right. Well, I mean, on that note, I hope you get to the movies and get to see Project Hail Mary, and I hope you win your race. And if I don't see you before November, I wish you a lot of luck.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You too, Greg. Thanks so much for coming on the pod.
Thanks.